So let me take you back to my childhood, where I believe some of my current relationship issues first began to take shape. Growing up, trust was not an easily defined concept in my family. You see, I come from a family where cheating seems to be somewhat of a tradition. Unfortunately, it's not a very proud tradition, but one that's definitely left its mark on me. When I was just 11 years old, I stumbled upon a secret that should never have been uncovered by a child. I found out that my parents, my own mom and dad, who I looked up to for love and guidance, were both engaged in infidelity. They were not just cheating separately, they were cheating on each other, making daily life feel like I was watching an ongoing silent drama without any resolution. At such a tender age, this revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. Imagine the people you adore, the ones you look to for an example of love, revealing a betrayal that you can barely comprehend. It was as if the very foundation of what I believed in was suddenly nothing more than castle built on sand, one wave away from collapsing completely. My understanding of love and relationships was significantly skewed after that. The idea of true love, one where both partners are faithful and devoted to one another, never got instilled in me. Instead, I was left to grapple with the inconsistency between what I was taught about love and what I witnessed firsthand in my own household. As you can imagine, discovering such betrayal at a young age left an intangible scar on me. I did not have the emotional maturity to process what was happening, nor did I have the tools to navigate through the storm of feelings churning inside of me. There was confusion, anger, sadness, and a profound sense of loss for the innocence I should have been able to claim for a little longer. Back then, I didn't understand how heavily these experiences would weigh on my future relationships. But as the years went on, the seed of distrust, planted so early, began to grow. Now at 22, reflecting on those times, I clearly see how that seed sprouted into vines of insecurity and fear, creeping into every corner of my relationship thoughts. Those old wounds followed me into adulthood, hard as I tried to leave them behind. I found myself constantly guarded, wary of letting anyone get too close, afraid they would only prove the lessons ingrained in me, lessons of lies and betrayal. It's ironic, isn't it? How the lessons we learn as children, even the unintended ones, follow us into adulthood. They shape us, mold us, and in some cases, like mine, haunt us. So here I am, living in the shadow of a past I wish had never been mine, trying to build a future where trust can finally take root and bloom without fear or skepticism. Because in this heart of mine, there's a deep longing to break free from that past and let true love find its place. Despite these weary shadows of the past, I found myself in a relationship with a wonderful girl whom I deeply adored and treasured. We met at a university event, and there was an instant connection that felt different. She had this infectious laughter and this warmth that seemed to reach out and hug you, even when you were standing amongst a crowd. I genuinely felt happy being around her, and it seemed like we were aligned in so many ways. This relationship became a lighthouse in the midst of my muddled ocean of emotions, guiding me towards what I hoped was a birth of safety and warmth. I had made countless sacrifices to nurture this relationship, things as trivial as giving up weekend hangouts with my family to something more substantial, like the times I rearranged my entire schedule to ensure I was there for her big day. In fact, I'd recently come back from a necessary, though heart-wrenchingly long separation due to some work obligations, just to be with her for her birthday. Celebrating her day was such a priority for me, and the joy it brought her made every small sacrifice worth it in my eyes. Yet, when it came to friendships, there was a noticeable difference between our social circles. I had a tightly knit group of friends, mostly guys, whom I relied upon like a second family. They've known me for ages, and were the ones who knew about my trust issues, who stood by patiently through my ups and downs. I didn't have any really close female friends, not out of choice, but perhaps because the idea of building trust with women was something that seemed foreign to my often anxious mind. My girlfriend, on the other hand, was much more open and inclusive in this regard. Her circle was vibrant and mixed. She had a number of guy friends, and though initially this did set off tiny alarm bells, I reminded myself that trust was a key pillar in any relationship, or at least should be. I made a conscious decision to respect her friendships and ensured she knew that I respected her space. After all, no one likes feeling bound by chains in a relationship, whether of suspicion or control. Sure, there were moments when my heart would falter just a little bit, a harmless jest shared between her and a male friend, or an embrace that seemed a fraction too long. There was even an instance where I stumbled upon a message that brought unease, but stopped myself from jumping to conclusions before understanding the full context. She noticed my discomfort and opted for transparency, putting my mind at ease again. But honesty is a two-way street, and soon enough, emotions that I'd hoped to suppress bubbled to the surface. Unable to sit on these feelings any longer, I decided to open up to her about my insecurities and the tangled roots they had grown from. I explained my family's history and how those early experiences had made me cautious and sometimes overly suspicious. To my relief, she understood and didn't take offense, even when my deeper worries rushed out unfiltered. In that moment of vulnerability, it seemed like we reached a mutual understanding. She assured me of her genuine intentions, which soothed, though didn't completely erase my anxieties. It was like a refreshing wave washing over years of worry-stained sand, leaving a glimmer of something new beneath it all. A whisper of hope, perhaps, that our love could indeed stand firm against any turmoil from the past. But still inside me, the feelings, those unresolved feelings, they lingered. Like an unwelcome guest refusing to leave, they cast their shadow over the moments we shared. The candor had helped, a bandage of sorts over an emotional scrape, but I felt like something deeper, something inherent needed to be addressed for the healing to truly take hold. So we sat down together, a quiet evening peppered with laughter from passing neighbor kids floating in through the open window, and I gently steered our conversation toward the truth I had yet to fully speak. I think, I began, feeling the weight of my words as they prepared to leap into the open air, I owe you some truth about why I feel and act the way I do. She looked at me, her eyes steady yet kind, inviting me to continue. I breathed in deeply, gathering courage with each inhale. My upbringing wasn't your standard picture of harmony, I admitted, my voice stumbling over the remnants of my past shame. My parents, there was a lot of betrayal both ways. It created this web of distrust I've been stuck under for so long. I guess I just need you to know, it's not you, it's me trying to understand what love really means because what I saw growing up wasn't it. Her face softened as the silence wrapped around us, and not once did I see judgment flicker in her gaze. I had no idea, she whispered, her hand settling gently onto mine, grounding the moment. Her understanding was tangible, as if she extended a rope where I could see no end. Thank you, I mumbled, a tide of relief washing over those old scars. I need us to be open about everything, because I know there are things you haven't shared either. I just want to feel like we're in this together, you know? Her nod was slow, yet definitive, a promise etched in motion. And it seemed as though we truly reached a new ground, one where the air felt lighter, the future a touch brighter. Yet, not long after our conversation, a situation arose that tested this newfound clarity. She shared with me her interactions with a friend from her past, an online connection that hadn't bloomed into anything real, but had still left traces behind. She had mentioned him before, a mere anecdote in the vast book of her experiences, and I had thought nothing of it then. But now, with the cloak of honesty embracing us both, she shared more. It was, she explained, a brief yet potent period of emotional depth, one that ended abruptly when he cut contact. And as she recounted their disjointed story, explaining how he'd reached out again recently and her subsequent feelings of closure, I could see her effort in maintaining the transparency we'd spoken of. Yet within her words lingered a detail, a piece of this new puzzle that didn't sit right with me. She had asked if he still held feelings for her, assuring him I didn't need to know about their past. Those lines, so simple yet so loaded, reverberated in my mind, creating a chasm where before there had been a bridge. Why? I wanted to ask. Share some things and obscure others? Wasn't our truth supposed to be whole, detailed in its entirety? As I pondered this, I felt a disturbance in the newfound peace we had reached, a shaking, a subtle tremor in the foundation we were building together. It was as though the past, mine and now hers, loomed more insistently, challenging everything I wanted to believe about love and trust. The revelation felt like a betrayal, slicing through the fabric of trust and dedication I'd wrapped myself in. Every sacrifice I'd made for her felt like a stepping stone towards a destiny crumbling under the weight of hidden truths. I had sacrificed so much, time with family and friends, financial strain, and my own personal time, all invested into nurturing this relationship. And now, with this fragment of unresolved history surfacing, it felt as if my efforts were being undermined. For 8 months, I had been entirely devoted to her, pouring everything I could into making our relationship thrive. But suddenly, my mind became a battleground. Two conflicting parts of me wrestled for dominance. One part attempted to soothe my doubts, remind me of her reassurances, and calm the unease that brewed within. Yet, the other part, fueled by an ingrained fear of betrayal that traces back to my tumultuous family background, clung more tenaciously to the shadows of suspicion. Standing at this crossroads, I couldn't help but question her motives. Why choose to hide elements of her past when transparency was what we promised each other? Though they'd never met in person, the emotional integrity of their interactions loomed large, casting shadows over my intentions to trust. Her seemingly innocuous decision to keep me out of certain conversations poked at my insecurities, exacerbating the paranoia worming its way through my mind. In those moments, I felt betrayed not so much by her words, but by the echo of suppressed doubts those words awakened in me. I was unwillingly replaying my own history, replaying the duplicity I had witnessed in my parents' marriage, and the tumultuous emotions it had left me grappling with for so long. Despite the reassurances and assertions that she had no residual feelings towards him, that old anxiety raised its head. What if their emotional exchanges had found a deeper connection than what they let on? The fear of being relegated to mere placeholder for someone else's failed affection gnawed unforgivingly at my peace of mind. In this tumble of emotions, I found myself at the edge of unraveling. The weight of family legacy, the scars of my past, and the rawness of present insecurities swirled together, forming a storm of confusion and mistrust. That the closure she sought had brought about more questions than it resolved for me was a cruel irony. Was I overthinking all of this, allowing my family's painful history to taint what might otherwise be a free-spirited and innocent reconnection? Or was I rightly feeling the tremors of something more sinister, a truth veiled by a thin veneer of trust? With all these thoughts racing chaotically, I realized it wasn't merely about our relationship anymore, it was about confronting the demons of my past, the lingering paranoia they seated within me, and whether I was truly ready to lay them to rest. In the midst of processing these turbulent emotions, a memory struck me. There was this game, XP Maker, that she played with me. It's one of those where you create characters, your very own avatar. It was a lighthearted escape, or at least it was supposed to be. When playing together, she created one special character for me, and at the time, that felt special just for me. I thought it was a reflection of our bond, our unique connection. But then, recalling the details of the game, I remembered she had created 2 characters for that guy. 2, indicating 2 different layers, or perhaps versions of their connection. It was as though she unwittingly prioritized her past connection over what we were nurturing. Could this seemingly trivial detail reveal a deeper truth, or was it just my paranoid mind playing tricks on me? She did eventually block him, a move she only made once I discovered their exchanges, and expressed how much it upset me. I should have been relieved, I suppose, comforted that she was willing to make such a gesture for our relationship. Yet, lingering unease shadowed any comfort that action should have brought. But it was a band-aid on a much deeper emotional wound. This unresolved tension, I realized, wasn't only about her past, but about how I confronted my own shadows and what they meant for our future together. It was a weight I couldn't ignore nor simply brush aside, knowing full well how it could mar what we shared. I desperately needed clarity, not just for us, but for my own peace of mind, which I felt slipping through my fingers in this whirlwind of conflicting feelings.